next bait I want to make is something I've been looking at online. Is a commercial bait called a Blackdog Shellcracker. And I've never made something quite this shape before. It's going to be different. It's a segmented bait, two-piece. Let's take a look at it right here. I've already sort of drawn it out. I had to draw it freehand according to the shapes that I just see online, and I think I have it pretty close. One thing I want to do is this bait. It's a little bit big for, it's 4 inches, but 4 inches isn't that big, but it's wide this way. It's a little bit thick too in the middle, and I think it's going to have some really interesting buoyancy tendencies. And I don't want it to float too much. So what I think I'm going to do, and I've never done this before, I'm going to glue together 2 pieces of wood. The top half will be pine, which is what I usually use, and the bottom half I think is going to be maple, which is the densest wood that I have here in the shop. I do have some walnut and I have some mahogany, but the hard maple I have will be the densest. So the bottom half will be maple, and that'll already set up the stability a little bit. And then as I add weight into the bottom lead, that'll add more to the stability, I think, and also get it to sink a little bit so it won't be floating too much. If I made it all out of pine, this is quite a block of wood. I'd have to really weight it down. I'd probably want to go like this, or float way too high if it was weighted down. So I'm going to get a head start by putting a dense wood in the bottom half. Blackdog Shellcracker. Let's see how it goes. Well, they're different thicknesses, but that's okay. I'll put it through the planer out. Wood's glued together. Maple, cedar. They're different thicknesses though. That's all right. I've got a planer. Well, I've got a picture online. The bait is 4 inches in length, and I measured. They actually showed a picture of the bait this way, and I measured it on the picture online, and then I measured it this way, and I calibrated the thickness of the bait, and it should be 1 inch, which is just about what this wood is, 1 inch piece of wood. By the way, this is the layout of the lower trace of the paper that I drew. I decided to put the maple slightly below the center line, below the center line, so there's a little more cedar on top, a little less maple at the bottom. I got kind of busy doing it, but so I didn't video it. But here's the V cut in the wood. Not all the way through yet. I still have some carving to do. Then I'll finish it at the end. And the tail fin cut. I made about the right size. I think I can always clean it up later. On the commercial lure, it looks wide and it looks like it might move back and forth, but I think I want to make mine solid. I don't want to make it that way. The taper on the bait, I think this thing is supposed to be a bluegill. The taper on the bait kind of curves in and goes to the back and the front. The taper doesn't start too far back. It's kind of stubby on the front. So I'll cut these off, and then we'll do some carving. Okay, the taper is done on this, and now it's time to carve it. And this is a fairly thick bait, and it has rounded over edges, but it still stays thick all the way from what I can see. But I'm going to carve it to what I think I like. I think that's the best way to do it. Now to take down the edge on this back half. We'll try to take it down to about that line without touching the end. Got it taken down, and we've got a nice little movement in there. When it's separated, the movement will be a lot bigger because the hinge will separate it. So we have our two halves. Now I'm going to start thinking about the hinge. Now I've got a choice with this. Normally this bait would be made with two eye loops for a hinge. It would be glued in this half and in this half. But this bait from this company, this Shellcracker bait, actually has a thick, looks like a thick eye loop or thick piece of something that it sticks into one side and goes into this side of the hinge. It's embedded. So I have this piece of aluminum that is fairly thick, and I'm not saying I'm going to use that method of hinge, but if I can get a couple of hinges made, I'll give it a shot and see what happens. I've cut out this piece of aluminum, and it gets really hot when I try to work it on the sander or on the grinder. So I think I'll just clamp it directly in the middle, and I'll make one end of the hinge on each end, and then I'll just cut the pieces off. I hope. I'm not going to put it on camera because it's just too much diddly work to do, but I'll be back when it's done, if it works. After a lot of messing around with it, this is what I came up with. It's got the hole, of course, for the pivot hinge, and it's got some little teeth on the side so that when I glue it into the other end, it will hopefully bite with the epoxy. And here it is mounted in the front end. And the other one, if I can get it in here, mounted in there like that. The other end of the hinge I'll have to cut into it so that it'll fit right about there, and put a pin either side. The pins I have are rather big, but this isn't a little wire hinge either. I have a small brass rod will go through the hinge here. I'll probably put a small piece through each end instead of doing this though. It's not quite long enough. I hope that works. I know that now it looks like Frankenstein, but this is what I've come up with. These two pins, of course, will be cut off, recessed a little bit of epoxy over them, and the hinge will be epoxied in the front half of the bait. the carving is done. Focus here. And there's the other side. I've got all the hole drills drilled for the eye loops and the eyes. So I think it's time to dip this in sealer, and then I'll be able to leave it for a while and let it dry, and I can move on from there. Till tomorrow. I didn't film it, but I went in and glued in the eye loops, and I made the bill. And the bill is similar in shape to the commercial bait. And those are epoxied in. Here's the tail end. Those are epoxied in, and I'm waiting for them to dry, and then we'll put the lead in. So let's see how it floats. The hinge is made, everything's glued together. Got a couple of hooks hanging from there to get the right mass. Oh, it's almost a sinker. That's great. It's just barely going to float. Oh, that's wonderful. It's tipped back a little bit, but that's okay. I am not going to mess with it and try drilling more holes and so forth. That's about as good as I'm going to get. I'll buy that. Well, it's pretty much ready for painting. Get a close-up look here, it'll focus. Light. Tail detail. Well, I'm looking at this the way that the commercial one looks, and there are some differences. Of course, the design isn't exactly alike. I think I improved a little bit as far as the gill drawing and everything. I made them a little more natural looking. The hinge, I've seen it in 3 pictures with 3 different hinges. I made the ones with the kind of the thicker posts and the rods going through. There's also one with a knuckle hinge, but the way it is. Also, the tail. I also saw a couple of different tails. One that was kind of like set in hard, and another one that had a wide slot with pins going in the side, so the tail flooded a little bit too. I opted just to glue it in. Made it of wood. It could break. It's hardwood though, it's maple, so not as much of a chance. If it does break though, I'll just cut it off, re-bandsaw the slot, and put another one in. That's assuming the bait is worth its salt, so that to use. So, view, top, back, bottom. You can see I've got the lead holes filled in with baking soda and super glue. So we're almost up to painting. Floats good. I gotta check and see if I have some eyes. I think I want some clear eyes. I've got to look. The eyes in the pictures of the ones that I see online are a little bit yellow. Instead of making them, I think I'll just go ahead and use these ones that are red yellow that I made for my last one. They look pretty good, and I think they'll fit because the lure is going to be very greenish, so the 2 colors matched together will be fine. I won't have to make any more. So it's these eyes. Okay, in the water, testing it out. No hooks on it yet. Well, this thing is ready for some paint, so we'll start painting it. We'll start with white. Okay, I've got some silver in here, so we're going to take and put silver all over it except the base. We're going to leave that white. This is sepia, which is, if you didn't know, is sort of brown. It's intended to tone down all of these colors. There we go. It looks a little spotted right now, but we'll tone that down even more. I have some combs and such. You can see the pattern it makes. A little bit too distinct, a little bit too big. But I made a small pattern. I just cut out some stripes, and looks like it's going to be better here. So let's give this a shot. Let's see, where should we put it? Put it right behind Gill's. Choppy water, and the bait is pretty well camouflaged. Try to find some smoother water, but I don't think I can. Well, I'm not sure about this lure. The high profile made it a little less stable than I would have liked. I think I'll stick with lower profile baits or standard crate baits or swim baits from now on. But it was interesting to me. The hinge worked good, but I don't think it works any better than a standard knuckle hinge with a pivot point having to do with 2 eye loops. It was fun to build, and I don't know how much fishing I'll do with it, but it was an experience. And now I know it'll probably be a while before I bother making one like this again, I think. Thanks for watching.